We welcome everyone to HHC Reboot Hospitality episode number 28. We thank you for coming over and investing time with us today for a very passionate discussion on the topic hospitality.
Okay, so like we said, this is really lessons, learnings, things that people have done differently. So we have a very interesting variety of people on the panel. Kabir, who's probably is the senior to me in the restaurant business because he's a couple of years senior. So he's been around like I have been 30 years, he's been 32. So very old established chain. To Amit, who is one of the more interesting restaurateurs I've met, and I've met and chatted. I had lunch with him recently at his restaurant. The best butter chicken and dal makhni you can get anywhere. So very interesting restaurants, a lot of exciting growth plans. In the Indian casual, he's done a lot of innovation around delivery also. And then, of course, the newest, I say youngest on the block is Kollav Aditya. He said a couple of years in the F&B space only. Artisanal natural ice cream, grown extremely well in the pandemic, and lots of stuff. So I'll jump right in. Let me start with you, Kabir. Uh, Kabir, for you, delivery was always, I've had many chats, and for you, delivery has always been an important part of the business. But tell us, how has it grown and how has it changed over the last 12 months for your company?
Yeah, thanks, Amir. Yeah, so I think we were kind of lucky and blessed to be have already have got into the delivery space before the pandemic happened, and which was about at that time about 25% of our business. During the pandemic, of course, it became close to it. It was about 80% of our business. This thing, and even now, last month, it was again close to about 70% of our business, and dine-in is yet at about 50%, but the deliveries were at about 160, 170%, a little more than that, because of,
And one of the other questions I have for you is that have you seen a change you've got new brands, like a
yeah,
couple of brands on that profile, which even I wasn't aware of.
yeah.
So tell us something about the new brands. Are these delivery brands?
So actually what happened was that even before the COVID situation came, we had got into 3 cloud kitchens with the intention of, wanting to do something, of course, but we were so busy with our other things. So, that was always in the back burner. But when this COVID situation came, then we were forced to kind of, go look into those brands, and we actually launched them during the COVID time. And with God's grace, they kind of, at least 2 of them have kind of started and doing reasonably well now.
And are there different positioning and pricing from Burkos? These brands?
Yes, and it's one of the brands also Chow, which is not by Burkos, but it's a different AOV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So these are higher end.
No,
are
lower.
More expensive. Lower.
No,
Lower. Okay. Lower, going down the price. Okay. Interesting.
We are in the process of developing a premium brand, which is
a premium brand, a high-end brand,
which is more of Japanese kind of.
Japanese. Okay. So interesting across a few price points in the space. Amit, I remember when I met you at lunch, you showed me a very interesting delivery box, and I've seen that you've got some awards for it, etc. So tell us how you are largely a dine-in, from what you told me, a dine-in business when the pandemic hit, right? I mean, delivery was a very small part of your business.
Yeah, when we conceptualized the brand and when we opened these my first 4 outlets, I never had any plan to ever do delivery from these outlets because I thought the whole dine-in experience would be my what we focus on. But whatever, you have to change your plans. And when the pandemic happened, we realized that if we have to reopen, we have to do delivery. But then what the reason why then when I thought that if I have to get into delivery, then it has to be something different from what, and I thought what is lacking in delivery which we cannot, what is missing. So I realized, I realized myself that I've been to some restaurants which are my favorites when I've dined in there, and when I've ordered in from them, I did not feel like I had the same experience. So I realized the reason why it happens is that when you go to a restaurant, all your five senses which you enter is playing there at that time. What you see in the restaurant, look of the feel of the restaurant. Even the fragrance, what is inside the restaurant, what is coming out of the kitchen. What music is playing. When you sit down, what kind of materials you are touching. The touch also is how people interact with you, and obviously the taste of the food. All this together, your experience. It completes the experience in the dine-in. But I thought, how can I take this to delivery? Because we can still give the food. We can make sure we give the same food. We make sure we give a very attractive packaging, which I did, and I created a very a lot of attractive packaging around it. Then there was your your sense of touch also, which the kind of box I developed. But the main challenge was, how do we get the sense of the smell and the sense of the sense of hearing to the house. So we created we innovated. I created a box with a special box, which we had some QR codes placed in it. So when you get that box to your house, you can pick up your phone, just put your phone next to that QR code, and the same music starts playing, which is playing in the restaurant. And that music is specially curated with a special playlist, which creates a certain positive feeling.
That's I have to say is very cool. Huh? I haven't heard of any other restaurateur who's done that. That's a really interesting innovation.
Yeah, also then to complete the five senses, the experience of the smell as well. The welcome note which comes with the box, when you open it, it smells exactly the same fragrance which we have in the restaurant. So we developed that during the lockdown. We asked the company, doing our signature fragrance, to develop a paper which would have the same fragrance of our restaurant. So this was how we innovated and created five senses at home. And I feel the delivery is now here to stay. So we all have to make it a part.
Okay, Aditya, let me come to you. So what made you? I mean, you're in the premium artisanal ice cream business. What your kind of key learnings here? I mean, like you said, trial through fire. Would give us some key learnings from the pandemic and how you've grown the brand.
I think, Samir, two key learnings that I got from the pandemic. One is that home delivery does not mean only Zomato and Swiggy. We had a big plan. Pre-COVID, we were planning to open cafes or parlors, and open a number of dark kitchen locations. What we were able to do during the pandemic was to completely turn that around, because frankly, I mean, there are a lot of hoteliers and restaurateurs on this thing, and I think a lot of us know that Zomato and Swiggy have done amazing things for the industry, and changing the way people consume their food. But by the time you're done with the Zomato commission and the advertising and the discounting and the making small packs for single users, there's really not much money left for the restaurant. So we were able to, during the early months of the pandemic and during the lockdown itself, create our own home delivery network. We have freezers now in different parts of the city. And so for a very low capex and a very low rental, we're able to service customers all over Delhi. The other, I think, key learning, at least for me, is that people say dark kitchens is a very economical way of doing business, but the fact is that if you have a dark kitchen, then almost as much money as you're spending as a restaurant in rent, from a dark kitchen point of view, you're spending that much money on digital marketing and online marketing. And as the D2C space gets more and more busy, and more restaurateurs and frankly providers of all kinds of services, realize the power of D2C, there's more and more competition to try and reach the customer online. So that is becoming a significant chunk of money now.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. So let's move to the next kind of area, which is consumer behavior, right? So consumers have changed. There was of course, a change of behavior, some of which was temporary. However, from my conversations with many restaurateurs, that there's a lot of people feel that consumer behavior, in some sort of way, some new trends are going to stay and change in a more permanent way. Right? What do you think if you look at your own consumer bases, and what have you seen as a change in consumer behavior for your profile of customer? Kabir, starting with you.
So I definitely believe that, of course, that dine-in will be back. And of course, we cannot be, we can't take that for granted. So we have to definitely work harder to give more reasons for restaurants to come and dine in with us. So we'll have to think of some more innovation around that and some more reasons for them to come back, which I strongly believe will come back. And having said that, I would say delivery is now kind of become an habit, and I think it will also continue to grow. So I think both will stay. And
You mentioned that you were starting a premium brand. Is that because you feel there's an opportunity for premium Japanese or premium stuff in
no, it's just that we tried, actually, like Aditya said correctly, cloud kitchens sound really good, but when you have to try and do one brand within that, and you have to pay that kind of commissions to Zomato and Swiggy and this thing, you actually, it's as good as paying that much rent. So you have to be really careful and you have to innovate. So we're trying to use the same team and the same staff to kind of build on two, three brands. So that keeps that labor cost under control, and hopefully then, that model becomes viable and, profitable.
Amit, have you seen, so interesting, I know that, for a restaurant like at the higher end, Bukhara and all these guys who never delivered in their lives, would Rampuk and Bukhara were delivering because there was zero business. Do you see that, Amit, at the high end, this kind of, would people continue to pay 4,000-5,000 for a 5-star food experience at home, or do you think they'll want to go back to it's going to be going out and not?
So one thing is for sure that right now, because of the scenario, the pandemic scenario, there's a certain percentage of people who don't want to take a risk to go out, but maximum people are now getting out and they're very comfortable going out. We've seen very good numbers coming in our touchwood in our dine-in in the last few months. And then we suddenly got this, the shutdown happened, lockdown happened. So I feel that yes, delivery is going to be here to stay. One thing I was just like to add on as far as the cloud kitchen or dark kitchens are concerned. What I realized is what is working now, the consumer behavior is such, they only want to order in from the good brands. They know. They don't want to go and try any new brand. So I feel the established brands like us, tomorrow, if we have a kitchen, which is, I will not call it a cloud or dark kitchen, I would say delivery only kitchen. That would give us value because we don't have to put money into marketing. We already have an established brand. So we get the value from adding, another delivery kitchen where, the overheads are much lower and we get the right returns because of the brand value we already have. And yes, that's the biggest consumer, for the consumer behavior which has changed is they want to go to the good brands. They're spending more. There's average order values have gone up. Average per person spends have gone up. They're spending more. They want more of comfort food, but they only want to go to the trusted brands. They don't want to buy new brands. Yeah.
In taking off from that point, Aditya, I know in a conversation you mentioned that one thing that you were focusing on was doing self-delivery, which means you were not you getting people onto your own website, but you had your own delivery boys, and you felt that in the extreme lockdown last year, that helped somewhat with trust with customers. Just if you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Samir. So during the lockdown, particularly, and Amit, you correctly said, mine is a very new brand, so we have to win over the customers' trust. But so what we did was we focused a lot on our advertising and our communication on the fact that we were very hygienic. We had our own delivery people doing the deliveries. And during the lockdown in particular, we found that there were a lot of customers who were calling up and asking for how the delivery is going to be done. And they certainly were more comfortable when we told them that they were our own employees rather than some outsourced people who we didn't have too much control over.
Okay, interesting. So do you guys, does any of you in Kabir, do you, Kabir and Amit, do you do your own deliveries, or do you guys have using Dunzo, Shadowfax, or one of these guys?
As far as I'm concerned, right now, I have totally outsourced to Zomato.
Totally outsourced. Zomato and Swiggy.
I'm not delivering on my own because I realized that the hassles are too much to handle, all the logistics, At least I get that. One thing we lose out is on the data, that's the only, only thing which we lose out on, the data from Zomato. Otherwise, it's very convenient for us.
Kabir?
Yeah, so we have our own riders, which we always had earlier. Plus, we've also tied up with Shadowfax and Pidge also now. and delivery, actually all three, to do deliveries. We were on the hybrid model with Zomato till very, very recently. So we were pushing number of orders through our own deliveries, but now that's stopped. So, and we were also trying to initially push a lot of orders through our own website and direct phone orders, which we get numbers through, leaf flyers and all that. But in the middle, we was, I think the comfort level with Zomato and Swiggy was so much that we became very dependent on them. And now we slowly need to kind of reboot. And, again, the focus is back to trying to get our own orders right now.
Sure. Okay. What do you think, if you look at what was for each of you, what is the biggest challenge you faced? I mean, we all face standard challenges. Okay. So all restaurateurs face standard challenges. Operations were closed. You had to take care of people. But what was your one biggest challenge, and how did you overcome it in business? Right now, talking about business, what was your biggest business challenge in the pandemic has been, and how you dealt with it? Kabir?
I think for me, the biggest challenge and learning now is that, when businesses are running over a period of time, you tend to become little, I would say, a little complacent, and we tend to work with more people than required. This is a big learning for me now. And I think now, we're working with fewer people, and we're learning to, get people to multitask. We are getting people to, become more and try and work more efficiently. So that's one big one for me. Second one, I guess, which is really a wake up call, was, when things are going good and you're expanding and, you're opening your outlets, you're not really so worried about cash reserves. So for me, that was a big wake up call, and now I've kind of, even at the cost of not expanding right now, is to build, continuously month on month to build cash reserves, for emergencies, which we never thought something like this would happen, while the going is good.
Yeah. Okay. Amit?
Yeah, similar challenges we had. And yes, we realized that, what we were, I think, overstaffed, or maybe everyone was used to, working less. So now, yes, we know that, if we can do the similar business in 65-70% of the cost of salaries what we had earlier, that has been one big thing, and big challenge in which we realized that we can reduce the cost. And yes, cash flow is very important. In our business, we always have a working capital because we get, raw material on credit. I have decided to, buy everything on cash and not keep any debt on our books. That's what I have decided to. Keeps us, less stressed if something like this happens. And also, like we decided one thing, that when a lockdown happens, like which has just happened 3 days back, the only thing we can depend on now is the delivery. So delivery is something we cannot ignore, and we have to focus on having a very strong delivery business always. So it gives us that buffer. It helps us in the worst of times, where we can give us that that much revenue that we can survive. Like we are now planning to start even delivery only kitchens, like I mentioned. There's a company called Kitchen Plus we have tied up with, and they're giving us a ready setup, everything set up, and they handle all the hassles, everything, and we just go in with our equipment and start delivering. So that's what we're trying to do now. A cash, not in, what do you say, asset light model, and investing in, getting into these ready kitchens where we can start our deliveries in the future and keep less of, investment on going into.
Aditya, your biggest challenge learning?
Samir, I mean, we really formally launched the company only in about December, January of last year. So I was learning, every day. I think the biggest thing was that we were just the ability and the need to suddenly pivot. We had a plan to open cafes and parlors. We had a plan to do dark kitchens, and suddenly everything just stopped, And literally in the months of March and April last year, when even access to resources, access to people was very, very limited, we were able to turn around our entire thinking and our entire model and build a delivery capability in a very short period of time.
So what I'm hearing, kind of summarizing learnings, is flexibility, the ability to pivot and move your business model and not be too fixed. I really echo what Kabir says. And I know, unfortunately, in our industry, a lot of restaurants have had to close across India. And those are the ones which have closed where either the landlords were unreasonable or they had absolutely no cash reserve. right? And they just hadn't planned for this and couldn't survive, and were not also really into delivery, right? If you were not doing delivery, you had no dine-in business, and so that's very important. And I totally agree what Amit said. I mean, delivery is here to stay, and delivery is going to be an increasingly large part of your business for all restaurateurs across all segments. While customers will want to go out for the experience, I think this habit of it's a kind of consumer behavior habit, which I think partly will stay. Of course, post mass scale vaccination, herd immunity, a whole lot of stuff, this will hopefully kind of settle down, but that's still a little time away. Okay, quickly, one personal learning. What have you changed? What have you done? And Kabir, you can't say more golf, huh? Because that is excluding more golf. So excluding more golf, because you always did lots of golf, eh? So Aditya, you're on here. Why don't you start and tell us what was your personal learning in this?
I mean, again, like I said, I was learning every day, but I think the biggest thing I've learned is that I just cannot work from home. I have to work from the office. Not possible.
Okay. You cannot work from home. Okay, Kabir.
So, I mean, like I mentioned the other 2 points earlier, but otherwise on the work front, I think
Personal front, not work front.
Yeah.
Personal front.
Personal front.
Personally, did you lose a lot of weight? Did you become like some? Always actually he's led a very balanced life. Yeah?
Personal front, I think COVID was great time.
Great time.
A lot of time to do a lot of things. Yeah. So I can't. I can't complain about that one. But
Okay.
yeah, I guess I kind of believed it before, and I kind of now it reinforces to kind of have a good balance between work and this thing, and I guess this just proved it again that
Amit.
Well, it was actually one of the best learning periods of my life, this pandemic time, and then we had the lockdown. I actually got so much time, which I never used to get before. And I went and attended a few webinars, and there was one which I attended where I learned about how to organize my life better. Where I wrote down all my goals from my business, personal, health, every family goals, and I wrote them down, and I structured my life much better. I planned a lot. I got all my corporate teams to come for meetings, Zoom meetings every day. One by one, we had different departments coming in, and we had made some, organized a lot of things, the data. So it really helped me when I reopened later on. So it, really helped me to realize that, if you can plan your life better and you can organize your life better, it will really help me. And actually, I lost a lot of weight also. I put on a bit more. I actually, realized that we were not ordering out. So I had a, a small home gym I made, and then, exercised a lot. And I lost almost 18 kgs in this. And that really realized if I not want that break, I was just going. Because we live in a business where we in an occupational hazard is to eat so much in the restaurant, the trials and all. So it really helped make my health better. So I think it was a very good thing for me. I take it very positive, whatever happened. It was a very good learning.
Yeah. I think me personally, I'll also add learnings. I think were interesting. Yeah. You really, I agree with Kabir in echo in a sense, you really start valuing your work-life balance when something like this happens. Because it kind of wakes you up also. Unfortunately, COVID has also had, mortality, and, everyone around, everyone knows people, you've seen, so it suddenly wakes you up, and I think it's very important to help kind of find your own work-life balance. And yeah, I've also found the same thing. Yeah, I mean, I am, in consulting and operating in a couple of brands, but I've found myself, I think, far more productive and efficient. You find yourself, you manage to work remote, you manage to be more productive, you manage to be more efficient. That's some interesting stuff. Taran, I want to leave enough time for Q&A.
Right.
To have the sponsor
Sure.
presentation for 5 minutes, and then we'll have about 15 minutes for Q&A.
Sure. Thank you for this very interesting panel moderation which Samir has done. So I think I'm sure the audience has a lot of takeaways. Now I would request Mr. Amlan Ghosh on behalf of our episode partner Prologic First to take on from here. We look forward to hearing from you. So Dheeraj, can you just give him the screen sharing rights, please?
Yeah, it's done. Sir, you can share the screen as well as you can start speaking.
Great. I'm trying to do that. Just give me a second. Share screen. Thank you everyone, and thank you HSC for allowing us this opportunity to present ourselves to your members. I am told that I should limit myself to 5 minutes, and I will try my best to do that. We as Prologic First are a company that's been in hospitality technology, or we've been supplying hospitality technology for the last 20 years, more than 20 years. Some of you may have encountered us. We do a variety of systems which are for hotels, restaurants, etc. But today I will focus purely on what we do in the context of restaurants. Traditionally, we have supplied solutions which are all the traditional solutions, which means we provide integration with delivery orders and table reservation systems. We provide you with a diner database and capability to provide to exchange data with loyalty programs. We provide you the point of sale, both in a desktop and in a mobile Android device mode. We assist with kitchen coordination in terms of kitchen order tickets, KDSs. We help with the procurement, the costing of your F&B sales, and we provide reporting and analysis. What we also do is provide the entire solution in a cloud environment. So as you keep talking about asset light operations, we are an option. We can provide you such solutions on an asset light model. What you might also be interested in knowing, because all the three speakers today have been parts of chains. You are evolving chains. We are particularly strong on enterprise applications where you can centrally control your menus, you can centrally control your prices, your authorization, your taxes, etc., and be able to consolidate information, get central reporting. We have customers who are doing that already. But then our focus today is not what happened pre-COVID, which of course is the solution we provide. The only two significant changes over there is that we now do it on the cloud. But more important, what happens here on? So some of the things that have happened that you are already aware of is that there have been a proliferation of QR menus, and we were also one of the vendors to provide QR menus. However, most of the QR menus available in the market are not interactive, which means you basically open a PDF document and you look at a menu, pretty much the equivalent of a paper menu on your smartphone. But it does not do more. And as diners experience it, they probably want to go back to paper menus, and restaurant owners like you, I'm not sure you see enough return on investment. So if QR menus have to progress further, they have to do a lot more than they have done in the past. And that is what we recognize, and that is what we have been trying to work on. One of the first things that we realized what we can do to assist your kind of operations, let's say dine-in operations, is, for example, the frustration. Think of yourself in a restaurant, you're trying to get yourself some service, you're trying to place an order, you're asking for a glass of water, you want the cutlery to be replaced. All the time, you're waving out, you're waving. It's very frustrating. You go to a upmarket dine-in restaurant and you're waving out for retention. So can we change that? Can we improve the level of service provided? Can we make it more efficient? Because that also works for you. It probably gets you better revenues, it gets you better table turnaround, and gets you more revenues. So what exactly do? We try and solve your problems. So one of those problems is, though you train your staff, some of you may achieve it, but many restaurants don't manage to achieve a situation where the staff is able to explain menu items adequately to customers, to diners. So an interactive menu as against a PDF or a static menu can allow diners to find out more about the item, maybe calorific values, maybe what the ingredients are, maybe how is it produced, maybe look at the photographs. So an interactive menu provides greater value to the diner. You may also be facing situations of delayed order taking. So a diner has arrived, he's sat down, he wants to have a meal, but to place an order, it takes many minutes. If you're on a busy day, you want to turn around the covers faster, you want the orders to be taken faster, the orders to be moved into the kitchen faster. So what we do is we enable the diner to place the order directly as an interactive operation, and hence the order moves faster, your turnaround of the table hopefully gets faster. Very often it happens, the diner sits down and says, listen, I'm allergic to capsicum. So please, will you request the chef not to put capsicum into anything that I do? Or you've got to catch a flight and or a train and you want to be served fast. Does the steward actually go and inform the kitchen that the capsicum should not be put in or a service should be fast? If not, we provide a method in our interactive menu for the diner to communicate the request to the kitchen and hence be sure that the request will be attended to. Again, go back to that example. You want a glass of water or you want a repeat of the last drink and you're waving. Avoid that. We provide you with the interactive menu. We provide you with a button so that the staff can get an alert saying attention is required. They can go and attend to the table faster. Another example of what we do, buffets. If there's crowding around the buffet, it's not a very safe feeling, not with the infections the way they are, and will continue to be a concern for some time. Imagine an alternate workflow where you've got a device with you on your own smartphone, you know what's available on the buffet, and you decide which of those items you want. That gets communicated to serve staff, and the serve staff come and bring you what you want and place it next to your table. It assists. Many of you have been talking about handling your deliveries directly, being able to take your orders directly. Our system allows your diners to place the order, make a payment through a payment gateway, and avoid going through the portals, through the aggregators. So here is an alternative which is consistent with what you're trying to do. Our idea is, can we also help you through this interactive menu to improve your APC? So how do we do that? We provide you features by which some cross-selling, some level of upselling can be done, and hence hopefully push the APC up. These are just some of the examples, and because of time constraint, I won't go anywhere further. But our aim is to make everyone happy. The diner happy, because the diner gets better service. You happier, because hopefully you get a better APC, get a faster turnaround on your covers. And all this we do for a cost which is pretty affordable. As per us, it's less than 4 covers per month. Depending on your APC, it may be a lot less, but it definitely is not more than 4 covers per month. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. If you have further questions, my colleagues will answer the questions. I will answer the questions. And if you want to reach out to us, here are some contacts that you can reach out to. Thank you very much. Thank you, Taran.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Bose.
Mr.
It was really,
Rathore,
really
and,
insightful. Thank you.
We will request you if you can share your contact info in the chat box too, so that whosoever would be interested may contact you.
Right.
We'll do that. Thank you. We'll do that.
Over to you, Samir. I think now we can take the questions. Anybody has questions regarding the panel?
If you have questions,
Yeah.
put it in the chat box, or we'll unmute you. You can ask your question directly. You can remove the slideshow, maybe, so we can see everyone then.
Yes, certainly. I would wish to put up a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, I really congratulate and acknowledge each speaker here. It was a very healthy and wonderful discussion we just had, and very inciting as well. However, I would really wish to know, how this entire thing can help our newcomers to the industry. The budding hospitality professionals and the budding entrepreneur who are recently, freshly coming out of the colleges, or might have just recently started their career. They are really in a state of dilemma because, and I can say that they are really in a state of dilemma because I have been working with many of the colleges very closely, and many of freshers very closely, and this feeling really exists. They really don't know what their future is with hospitality industry as a whole. So what would you like to tell them?
So, I think the future of the hospitality industry is still very bright for all, if there are any students on it, or if there's a message, because if you look at various parameters on, if you look at the Restaurant Association's report of 2019, I have recently co-authored a report on delivery, which is coming out in 2 weeks. Both point to a large opportunity, both in the dine-in space and delivery space and various segments. Of course, the next 6 to 8 months is going to be difficult. I think 2021 is still a tough year. However, there's enough opportunity because we, in terms of, if you look at India and the average times we eat out or go in is about 6 times in a month. That same is about 30 times a month in Singapore, 45 in Bangkok, and it's about 60 times in Shanghai a month. Okay, and if you look at it, so there's still a lot of opportunity to develop meal parts, a lot of opportunity. Kabir has reached 42 restaurants. He was like 30, 35 not too long ago. Everyone is expanding, right? I mean, and everyone's back on. A lot of brands have started expanding right now because real estate is very low. So I think there's enough opportunities in all segments: hotels, restaurants, your delivery brands. There's enough opportunities for youngsters. Anyone else wants to ask a question?
Whosoever wants to ask the question can unmute themselves directly.
Yeah,
and
you can just unmute and ask him. Go ahead. Anyone?
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Manav Sharma, and I have a question. And if all the panelists can ask, what is the advice you would have, and one piece of advice for new restaurateurs, people who are entering the industry, who are setting up this business? What is it that they should look out for from your learning of this pandemic and the current situation? What is it something that you would, really advise them? So who would like to take this? And all of you can go for it.
Yeah, Amit, do you want to start answering that?
Yeah, so my biggest piece of advice would be to, if you want to get into the restaurant business, don't look at any shortcuts, or don't look at the glamour part of it. Look at, I would suggest, always say that do a concept which is food based, which is focused on family, not bars, which are maybe don't have a long life. Like Kabir is here, his restaurants have been running for many, many years. So they have lasted for so long, and bars don't last that long. So I realized that. So the food is what gets the customers back. That's where you have the loyalty. Loyalty is in the food-based businesses. So that's what I would say, only focus on food-based businesses.
Thanks, Amit. That's
sure. Kabir?
I'd probably say look at models which are which do a equal kind of a balance between delivery and dine-in. I think that's one learning for sure. Look at models which are where you can standardize processes and you can scale. So that's a big learning for us, and that's what we are focusing on right now. If you can get some kind of standardization in your sauces and your raw materials and this thing, I think there's a huge opportunity sitting there. And people's eating out habits are going up. People are traveling. Smaller towns, B grade, C towns, there's this huge opportunity sitting there. And today, with we've got some amazing people who got into this cloud kitchen space. I think Virat is here from Kitchen Plus. There's some of these other models. They're creating some beautiful, really, really great, models where with the low amount of capex you can get in and open a new city, and open multiple brands in a new city. You can get your standardization and processes in place. So I really think for someone getting the business, it's a great time to get in and great opportunity to scale with not that much of capital.
Thank you, Kabir, for that.
Okay. There was a question on the chat box. Let me answer that. The question is, from Arpit Arora, what are the things to keep in mind while starting your own restaurant? How to bring uniqueness? Make it unique, yeah?
So I realized, when the story behind the restaurant was that, my friend's grandfather, he invented butter chicken dal makhani in a restaurant in 1947. We all know as Moti Mahal in Daryaganj. Years. So, I mean, but still, I being a big fan, and I realized somehow this is very, very, very much different from what used. Originality was lost. So I thought, for me to make a restaurant where I can actually. So my chef said from you is not to we have unlearned. I said remove this. Had reference point of the original recipes from that era, which we took as reference, and which was very, and it was surprised that it was all very simple, nothing too extra which we put these days. So that's how I decided to serve it differently and make it more towards the originals.
Yeah. And to add to that, what I think we all would be very careful when you open a restaurant or a kitchen or a delivery business. You've got to look at the feasibility, which means you've got to evaluate how much rent you're paying, how much salaries, whatever the concept is, and you got to make sure there's demand for your concept. Right? Each market dynamic is different. Malls are different. High streets are different. So you got to evaluate really what you call in the restaurant business. They say there are 3 things which make your success: location, location, location. If you're in dining, even if you're in delivery, choosing the right trade area, choosing the right pricing. So you just got to make sure that the feasibility for your concept has been well thought out, researched on the ground, and that there's enough demand for what you're setting out to do, whatever it is that you're setting out to do. Okay, any other questions? Yes, Subhash, you can unmute yourself, I think. You'll have to yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good evening to all the panelists and all the members. I'm actually a supplier of ingredients to the restaurants.
Okay.
And we are manufacturers of dehydrated onion garlic products, fried onions. I'm supplying to QSRs like Biryani Blues, Biryani by Kilo, all the biryani chains, a lot of North Indian restaurant chains. My question from you all experts is that what is your prediction for 2021? Because if I look at my figures, there has been a steep decline in the realistic numbers.
Sure.
So my customer base has been largely small food points, like those Muradabadi and Hyderabadi biryani walas and small restaurants who are selling through Swiggy, and they have their own client base. So there's been a steep decline. And what I could make out was that I am at now 25% of my business from 1920. A lot of money is stuck.
Sure. Yeah, with clients. Yeah. So
Yes.
it's a tough one to predict, but yeah, I'll give it a shot. I think 2021 till August, September is going to continue to be tough in my view. I think you will see, the surges of COVID perhaps happening. You will see some kind of limited lockdowns happening, as we've seen. Bombay's full restaurants are shut right now. A lot of cities in Maharashtra. Delhi, you've got this night curfew, which is impacting dinner business for this month. I think no one even knows in the medical community when will herd immunity kick in. There's a lot of unknowns on this virus. So I think that, but the expectation broadly is that in 5 to 6 months, things will get better for sure. So, come festive season, which is October onwards, I think things should get better. That's the forecast. The true real getting back to 2019 numbers will be 2022, in my view, especially for someone like you who's supplying, right? To a lot of small restaurateurs, and unfortunately the ones who also got hit quite badly, as you've said. So
Thank you very much. I'm happy to hear some positive figures.
There's another question, it was said that delivery is here to stay. This is Anubhav Bisht. And to provide best experience action, the situation will change, deliveries will decrease. So no, I think if I understand the question, delivery is here to stay. Delivery has increased substantially over the lockdown for pretty much all, I think all brands. I don't think delivery is going anywhere. However, when dine-in opens up, say a year from now, I still think delivery will be for everyone. If you look at it in 2022, your delivery will be a larger part of your own businesses than it was in 2019. Because some consumer habits will change, behavior will change. And also delivery is also driven by convenience. Once people are back to working and commuting in big cities, etc., delivery is just, and people have now got used to all this interesting delivery. They're getting delivery from their favorite brands, So brands like Olive and a lot of other high-end brands which never delivered are delivering now and are still delivering, even though lockdown is, stopped. So I think delivery is here to stay, for sure. Anyone else? We can probably take one last question. Otherwise, no, it's 5:29. We're supposed to wrap up at 5:30. I'll quickly thank Aditya, Amit, and Kabir for your time and your insights. That was very useful, I think. Hopefully, the panel got something out of it. And I will hand it back to Tarun to wrap it up.
Sure. Thank you so much. I think we had very good insights for the episode today. Moderated very well by Samir, and everybody really contributed well. So I'm sure the audience, first of all, thanks for investing the time with us. And I'm sure that all of you had a lot of takeaways which you can practically implement in your systems. So once again, I take this opportunity of thanking everyone for investing the time with HHC. Look forward to stronger associations way ahead, and let's build on it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay, be healthy, and let's connect again.
Thank you so much. Yep. Thank you, everyone.